All right, so place your hands in front of your heart center, close your eyes. So try to maintain a nice straight spine or straight back, and just tuck your chin slightly towards your chest. And we'll just start with some nice deep breaths. So if you are used to your more dynamic yogas and you know your Ujjayi breath, then you can just do a gentle Ujjayi throughout the practice. Otherwise, just breathe nice and deep through the nose. So releasing the hands down and slowly, gently open your eyes. And so our first pose that we're going to come into is deer pose. So place your right leg so that your shin here is parallel to your body. So, and along the long edge of your mat. Your back leg now goes out to the back. So you've got almost like a 90 degrees. So if you're a little bit tight in the hips, you might find that your left sit bone is lifted. It's okay. We're just going to give it a couple of moments here just to start to relax. So just as you sit here, just think about relaxing through your hips and through your thighs. Maintaining your nice deep breath. And you may find just after a minute or so that your sit bone of your left side will just start to come a little bit closer to the ground, or at least feel like it's released a little bit. So just remembering for the class, you'll need some cushions, a rolled up towel or a rolled up blanket, just anything that you can use for a prop. Okay, so now taking your cushion or your block, I've got a Thai cushion here, place it to your right side. So it's your right leg that's bent at the front, you place it to your right side. And then turn your body so that you're facing towards the right. And then slowly bring yourself down so that your forearms come down to the ground. Okay, so you can stay here for as long as you need to, or if you feel that you can come straight down onto the support that you have, then you can bring your chest down to your cushion or your block. So I would probably say a larger rolled up towel or a cushion might be better in this position, so that we can support the chest and also the head. So just turn so that your right ear is on the cushion, and just relax through the hips and the legs. And by all means, you may not actually need the cushion. It may be that you can come straight down into like this position here with your forehead, or if your chest is very close to the ground, then you may want to put your right ear to the ground. But I quite like having the cushion under the chest and supporting my head also. So just breathe in nice and deep. So whilst we have a kind of gentle stretch to the outer hip here, we also have the spinal rotation. Now, if it feels okay for your neck, just for the last minute or so, you could turn your head so that your left ear is on the pillow. And that will just increase the rotation on the spine. So if it doesn't feel okay, if it feels uncomfortable for your neck, then by all means just leave your right side on the pillow. If it feels okay, left side. So then now gently lift your head and look towards the ground, and nice and gently walk yourself back up, and then bring yourself back round to center. So you might have felt that more in your back than your hips. So then bring your legs out in front of you, take your hands behind you, and just do the windscreen wiper pose to, or movement, just to get a little bit of movement in the hip. And so this is really nice because you get the movement in the hip and then also the movement in the spine. Okay, so then bring your left leg to the front of you and your right leg will go back behind. So we'll stay here first of all, just for the first minute or so. And maybe just notice the difference between your left and your right side. So for me, the side that we did first, my left bum cheek wasn't on the ground, but on this side now, my right bum cheek is on the ground. So yeah, just a little bit of a difference, a little bit of imbalance in the sides of the body, which is absolutely normal. So just keeping your breath nice and deep and just really trying to focus on your right leg and just making sure that your right leg is nice and relaxed. So try to switch off your muscle and allow your body to sink a little bit deeper. Okay, so now we want to turn the body towards the left side. So you've got your cushion again in front of you and you twist your body and then bring your body down so that the center of your chest goes down onto your support. Okay, so we'll start with the left ear on the cushion. And again, remember, if you feel like you don't want to use the cushion at all or you want to extend your arms out, you can do whatever you feel that makes it feel good for you. But just trying to keep the center of the chest on to the cushion. Now just notice if your legs are engaged at all. So is your left thigh tense underneath your body or have you let it go? And then also the leg at the top, making sure that your upper thigh, your upper leg is nice and relaxed. And allowing your body just to sink a little bit deeper. So sometimes when you're in a position, as I say always in yin, sometimes the body engages, the muscles engage, and we don't really know that they've engaged. So just keep checking in with your body and make sure that your legs haven't started to tense up. Okay, now for the last minute, if you wish to turn your head to your right ear is on your cushion. So just increasing the spinal rotation. Got all of the dogs joining us. Go, go. Okay, nice and slowly then turn to face the ground and just bring yourself back up. And then back to center, turning yourself. Okay, take your hands behind you again, take your feet out in front of you and rotate side to side for the windscreen wiper action. Okay, so then bring yourself onto your hands and your knees. And you can come into a nice gentle downward facing dog. So again, we don't need to, you know, push our heels to the ground or anything in yin, unless obviously you feel that you want to. So from here, we're going to take the right leg and bring it all the way up to the hands. Dropping the back knee down to the ground. And we can just stay here. So we'll come upright. Okay, shuffle your right leg back, your left leg back as much as you can. So you can see the angle here of my left leg. So what we don't want is to be in this position here. Okay, you see here, I'm kind of like 90 degrees and 90 degrees. So shuffle your left knee back as far as you can. Let your body weight come forward. Okay, and then just when we go into a different position, you'll feel a slight difference in where we're targeting. So here the body weight is completely over the hips. And then in just a moment, we'll change it slightly. So if you've got a problem with your knees, then the best thing to do, I think, is to place a block just on your thigh. So it keeps your knee completely off the ground. Otherwise, you could also put it under your shin. Or obviously you can just put a little something soft under your knee. But I think that sometimes you still feel the pressure on your kneecap. Okay, so then bring your left hand down to the ground and then walk your right foot out to the right side just slightly and place the right hand on the inside of the right foot. And just notice now maybe the difference in this pose. If it's difficult for you to bring your hands down to the ground, then you could always stay in the upright position, or you could use your block or whatever you have to hand to place your hands on. So now really try to relax through your legs. So the target areas here are around the back of the right leg, and then the leg that's extended out the back, you're targeting the hip flexors there of the leg that goes out the back. So my right leg is forward, my left leg is back. So the hip flexors of my left leg is where I feel it most, but maybe yours is slightly different. So just keeping your breath nice and deep. This pose does get quite juicy. It does really start to, you can start to feel it a lot. It becomes quite intense, but yeah, just try and hold it for the next 30 seconds. That's all we've got left in this pose. If by all means you wanted to, you could come down to your forearms. I think if you're pretty tight in the hips, then coming down to your forearms might be a little bit of a challenge. For me at the moment, it's a little bit too much. I'm not feeling very bendy today. So I'm just going to stay in this position. Okay, so transferring your body weight now towards your back leg. So just take a little bit of the tension off, and then take your right leg and take it straight out to the back and pop your toes onto the mat. Now you might feel a little bit of heat coming into the hip flexors of the right leg, and that's just because they've been crunched up. So it's just the energy returning to your right leg here. So I'm going to be a little bit mean to you today, and we're going to target the same area twice. So here comes the next pose. So bring yourself down onto your knees and take your cushion, your support, whatever you're using, your block maybe to the right side of your body. And then bring yourself into a gentle downward facing dog. Okay, now from here, bring your right knee towards your right wrist and your right foot towards your left wrist. So we're coming into a pigeon pose, but this is called Swan in Yin. Okay, so then take your block and pop it under your bum. So if you bring your block closer to your thigh, it will give you a little bit more support, or the more you move it back out the way, it will give you less support. But the most important thing here is to allow your body to sink down onto your support. So it may be that you're not using a support, but if your hips are very slightly like tight, or the hip makeup maybe just doesn't allow, if you bring your bum to the floor and it makes your body go skew-if, then that's not the best. Okay, so make sure you use the support so that your body stays nice and straight, your hips stay nice and straight. Okay, so we will come down now to the forearms or to lie down flat, entirely up to you. So you can come down to your forearms, and again, if that's too much, you could pop a block under your forearms, or you may have the ability to straighten your arms out and lie down. So this is okay for me to get into this pose. However, I wouldn't want to stay there for 3 minutes. Okay, so my preferred position for this, where I'm at my edge, it hasn't gone too far, would be up here on my forearms. So keeping your breath nice and deep. And just try to relax through the leg that's going out the back. So make sure you're not pushing your foot into the ground or your thigh is tensed. So relax your left leg going out the back. And just really allow your body to sit into the support that you're using. If you're quite open in the hips, then your right foot would be more to parallel with the top of the mat. You can see that you can't see my foot here. So I've got mine tucked quite closely to my body because my hip makeup doesn't allow for my leg to go parallel with the top of the mat. But if yours does, because you're open in the hips, then you would want your lower part of your leg here. Okay. So I said today I was going to talk about muscles and about our hips. So first of all, I think it's important that if your hip pain is towards the inside of the hip, like the groin, then that indicates more of a joint problem. So Yin may not help you in this, and it may be that you need to go to the doctors and get that checked out. If the issues, the pain is more on the outside of the hip, then for us it indicates more that it's soft tissue, so like muscles, connective tissue, tendons, ligaments, fascia. Yeah, on the outside of the hip is more of an indication of this. Obviously, if I'm no doctor, so if you have a hip pain for a long time, then it's probably best to visit the doctor. So we've just got another 30 seconds or so here in this pose. So just keeping your breath nice and deep. Okay, so whichever position you're in now, start to make your way back up towards your hands. And you're going to want to spring out of this pose because it gets pretty intense. But tuck your back toe under, get yourself some height. Oh, come to your knees. And then again, take your right leg out to the back. So straighten your right leg, put the toes onto the mat. And you might just, again, feel a little bit of heat into the bum this time of the right leg. Okay, bring both knees down to the mat, and then let's take the hips round in a nice circle. And then let's go the other way. So just getting a nice little bit of movement into the hip flexors and into the glutes, into the bum. Okay, and then we're going to come to do the other side. So first of all, we'll come into dragon pose. So again, you can bring yourself into a downward facing dog. And then bring the left leg all the way up to the top of the hands and drop the right knee down to the mat. So remember again, if your right knee is uncomfortable, then you can place a cushion either underneath the kneecap or above the kneecap on the thigh to lift the kneecap off the ground, or your block under the shin to again lift the kneecap off the ground. So we start in this pose here, so we're upright and directly over our hips, over the joints. And we're just going to spend 1 minute here before coming down to the next position. So for me, I find this one pretty intense because my hip flexors are quite tight. So breathe in nice and deep. And then bring your right hand down to the ground. Walk the left foot to the side a little bit and then place the left hand on the inside of the left foot. Okay, so if you went down to your forearms on the last pose, then on the last time you did this on the other side, then do that again. If not, just stay here up on your hands, whatever feels best for you. So let's consider what muscle groups are involved in the hips. So the main ones, and you'll see from the class today what we're doing. The main ones are the hip flexors, so the front of the leg. So this can be one of the muscles from your quads, comes up and over the hip. It's your rectus femoris, and this is your kicking muscle. So if you imagine kicking a ball or kicking your leg up, this muscle is responsible for this. So it comes up and over, and here you have the attachments and the fascia. So your muscle goes from this nice juicy blood-filled fascia, muscle into fascia, stronger fascia, which then becomes your tendons and your ligaments. Okay, so bringing the weight now a little bit further back onto your right knee, so just taking the weight back, and then take the left leg out behind you and pop the toes onto the mat. So again, you might just feel that little bit of heat come into the hip flexors of the left leg because they've been crushed up a little bit. Okay, coming down to your knees, and then tuck your toes and bring yourself into a downward facing dog again. Okay, so just making sure that your support now is on the left-hand side. So you're going to need it to put under your left bum. Okay, so bring in the left knee towards the left wrist and the left foot towards the right wrist. Now you see where mine is, there's quite a distance here, okay? So maybe yours is the same, or maybe you can get your foot like this. Okay, this is no good for me at all. All right, now shuffle your right leg back as far as it will go. And then just use your support and pop it under your bum or your thigh, wherever you need the support. So more towards your thigh, so closer towards your knee, will give you a little bit more support, and a little bit further back under your bum, and the edge of your bum will give you less support. Okay, so staying here just for a moment. And just allow your body to sit onto your support and relax down. So just giving you a few moments just to get yourself set up so that you feel not comfortable, I guess. We need a little bit of discomfort, which is okay, but get yourself supported. Okay, and then when it feels okay, or if you feel that you want to come down to your forearms, then come down to your forearms here. Again, if you wanted to, you could extend your arms forward and chest down to the ground. Again, in a dynamic yoga, I could probably do that for just a short time. But in yin, where we're going to hold the pose for another 3 minutes, it's pretty intense. So. Okay, so talking about the muscles, so we had the hip flexors, which are at the very top of the front of your leg. And then we have the glutes. Okay, so the glutes are your bum. And these will be responsible for external rotation, taking your leg out to the side. And if these muscles are tight, then, or maybe underactive, then bringing your leg out to the side could be a little bit of a challenge. And then also the adductors. So the adductors are the muscles that go on the inside of your thigh up to your groin. So we're working on these 3 areas today. So in our first pose, there was a little bit of glutes and maybe a little bit more back. In the dragon pose, certainly front of the hip flexors and the glutes. And then this one is very much a glute. So when I talk about muscles, just remembering that your fascia surrounds all of your muscles. So what we're working on here is to try and relax through the muscle to stretch through the fascia and apply a little bit of stress to the joints, the tendons, the ligaments. And just applying that little bit of stress makes them stronger, more flexible, and makes you more mobile. So you have another minute here, and I'm just going to be quiet to allow you to focus on the sensations in your body. Okay, so nice and gently now, start to bring yourself back up to your hands. And again, nice and gently out of the pose. So tuck your back toe under get yourself some height, or take that leg back, and then pop your toes onto the mat behind. So the leg that was just in front for your swan pose, the left leg is now out to the back and the toes are just touching the mat. So again, you might feel a little bit of heat around the left side, your bum. Okay, and then bringing the knee down to the mat, and let's make some nice big circles again. So let your hips drop forward and then take them back. And we'll go 4 times in one direction and then 4 times in the other direction. Okay, and then we're going to come into a wide leg child's pose. So take the knees out to the side of your mat and place your toes together. Now we're not going to spend too long here, but sit your heels down, sit your bum down onto your heels, and you can reach your arms forward and place your forehead onto the ground if that feels okay. If you can't quite bring yourself down, then you could always come into Shashankasana, the bunny pose. So you would have your forearms onto the mat. And this is a lovely hip opener as well. Really nice for the back, but also very, very good for the hips. So just whichever position feels good for you. So just a short one here. So another 30 seconds or so in this position. So just notice if you can relax just another 5%. Okay, so nice and gently now, bring yourself up onto your hands and your knees. Bring the knees together. Okay, and then let's just roll around in a little circle, just 2 times in one direction and 2 times in the other direction. So not too much. We're going to come straight back into a similar pose in just a moment. Okay, so our next pose is frog. Okay, now this is pretty intense. So take your knees as wide as feels okay, and then your toes face outwards. If your toes facing outwards causes you a problem and it's really uncomfortable, just put them however is comfortable for you. Okay, so then as we will, if it feels okay, you can bring yourself down to your forearms. And again, if it feels okay, you can bring your chest to the ground. So you could also use your cushion or something under your chest just to give you a little bit of lift in case coming down to your chest is too much. And then from here, you can put your either ear on the ground or the head. So once you're all in position, I just want to show you this from the side. So you guys stay where you are. I turn sideways on the mat because of the pressure on the knees. So when we come into frog here and we bring ourselves down, we want to make sure that this doesn't happen. Okay, so make sure that you don't flop forward completely, okay? So if you can see the angle of my legs and my bum here, all right, I want them in line, okay? So you can see that is about here. All right, so then from there you can, again, as I say, bring your chest down to the ground if you wish. Either your chin on the ground or your forehead. If you find that a little bit difficult, then you can always have the support under your chest or under your head. Now, this pose, as I'm sure you can feel, gets pretty intense pretty quick. Okay, so here we're working on the inner thigh, as I'm sure you can tell. So the fascia around the muscles on the inner thighs, and then you may feel this up towards your groin. I know certainly for me at the moment, I can feel it towards my groin. So close your eyes, breathe nice and deep, and just notice the sensations. The sensations, I'm sure, are pretty intense. But how about you don't focus on the most intense sensations? How about you focus on the lesser sensations in your body? So, okay, I can really feel it on my inner thigh, but where else can I feel it? So really tune into your body and see where else you can feel this position. So we're going to stay another 30 seconds, that's all. So really try, relax, use your breath. And just know that in a few seconds, you'll have done the time on this one and it's almost finished. Okay, so gently now bringing yourself up to your forearms or wherever you were. Okay, now this, if you bringing yourself up a little bit is going to take the tension off. And then the only thing that I can say here is just try and lift up your body and bring your knees together nice and gently. Okay, so I know it's pretty nasty, but it's a good odd stretch, that one. Okay, so let's take the hips in a figure of 8 this time. So taking the hips forward in a number 8 and back. Okay, so we're next going to come to both a saddle pose. So you're going to want to have a block or a cushion here. Okay, so pop it in between your legs and your feet are on, the top of your feet are on the mat. Okay, so make sure that your feet are not like this. Okay, we'll put undue pressure on the knee if your foot is like this. So bring your foot around and you're sitting in the middle of your feet. Okay, now if you're very flexible in the quads, if they're very forgiving, then you may be able to sit onto the ground. Okay, for me, I've realized that actually not just my hips, but through my hip flexors and my quads are tight. So this is what I'm doing a lot of work on at the moment to try and help my hip opening. So your knees want to be quite close together. So don't allow your knees to come wide, okay? Because it will take it off the area that we're targeting. All right, so knees fairly close together, just a small gap in between them, and top of your feet on the mat. Okay, so you may find that as we sit here for a little while, your cushion, you could move it back slightly. So I start sitting completely on the cushion, and then what I would do to reduce it is I take it to the edge of my bum so that my bum can fall down a little bit deeper. And then normally by the end of the time that I spend in this pose, my bum can come down to the ground. But if I went to my bum straight away, it would really be too much for me. So here again, we're targeting onto the thigh. And then the second pose that we were going to do, we'll bring it a little bit higher up into, over the hip flexors and into the psoas. So we stay here for a moment. Okay, now if it feels okay, then you can bring your hands back. Okay, so you may feel a little bit more into the front of the leg. And it may be a little bit too intense. If it is, then by all means just come back up to sitting. Okay, but maybe if you can, see if you can come down onto your forearms. And you could stay in this position here. It's a little bit uncomfortable on the neck. You could drop your head back. And then that would stimulate your, it will come to me, I'll come back to it in a moment. Thyroid. Maybe you could move your support back a little bit and have it under your back and then lie down completely. To do this, your bum wants to be pretty much touching the ground, okay? So if it's not, and here you feel it so much in your lower back, then by all means you could pack some support under your lower back to make it more comfortable, to make sure it stays in the front of the legs and doesn't come into the lower back. If it's really too uncomfortable, then by all means just stay seated upright. But eventually you would want to aim to remove your cushions if that's available to you and lie completely flat on the ground. You'll notice, if I can show you mine, if I take my block out of the way and bring my upper back to the mat, have a look at the arch in my back. You can fit a bus under there, okay? And so this is not very supportive for the lower back. Okay, so I like to keep a little support under so that I can feel it more in the legs and the hip flexors, and it doesn't put too much pressure on my lower back. So breathe in nice and deep. You've just got about another 30 seconds left here in this pose. Now, you guys one much easier than me. For me, this one's very difficult. I've had knee problems in the past, and so I have to come out very slow, and it takes me a long time to straighten my legs. So you just have to bear with me on this one. Okay, so then we come out of this pose the same way that we went in. So place your elbows onto the ground and then just gently bring yourself up. Okay, so we're going to come all the way over now and place our hands and knees on the mat. Okay, so if, like me, it's going to take you a little while to come out of this pose and you also feel it in your ankles, then just give your legs a little tap on the mat. Okay, so just bring in the blood flow back to your front of your ankles, front of your foot. Okay. And then tucking the toes under. Again, that might be just a little bit intense after they've been straight for so long. And then just bring yourself into a nice, gentle downward dog. So you can see with me, it just takes a moment to my legs to go, oh yeah, okay, I'll straighten. It's pretty tough for me, that one. Okay. So we are then going to bring the knees back down to the mat. And bring yourself round into seated. Okay, so the last pose that we're going to do before Shavasana, which will be to target, we've just targeted the thighs, we're going to target a little bit higher up. So you want to have a support for under your sacrum. So if you've got quite a strong yoga block, then that would be great. For me, I think the best thing to use is this rolled up yoga mat. So, and then we're going to come down into a bolster bridge. So you can either do what I'm doing and roll back onto it, or if that's not possible, lie yourself down, lift your hips up, put your block or whatever you're using underneath your sacrum, so the very top of your bum and base of your back, and get your support in the right place, and then just rest down onto it. Okay, so we will start here and stay here just for a short time before we start to straighten the legs. And you can have this as high or as low as whatever feels comfortable for you. But just remembering that if you have it quite high, it's going to be a little bit intense on your lower back. But I quite like it sometimes. So I might just try out of the props that I've got to hand, I might just add another one, because mine are pretty squishy. So you can, from here, when it feels okay, you can start to straighten through your legs. And if that feels too much on your lower back, then just bend your legs. But if it feels quite okay, then just stay with your straight legs. So you're probably wondering what the emotional connections are to hip pain. So it could be that it could be about being indecisive. Okay, so let's say you've got two paths in front of you and you don't know which one to take. You're being a little bit indecisive, so you can't move in either direction, so you're not moving forward. This can be emotional pain that's related to hip pain. So have a think about, maybe like what the pros and cons are to each path that you have in front of you, or any decisions that you need to make. And it's quite possible that your heart already knows the right decision to make. And it's just about taking that leap of faith and choosing that path, or just having the confidence to do it. So yes, hip pain, about not being able to move forward, a little bit of indecision, and needing to know and take action for where you're going. So place your hands onto the bony bits that are sticking up here. So of your pelvis here, the two bony bits that are sticking up. Take two fingers and put them just inside those bony bits. Okay, so two fingers in, around here, so you can have a feel around here. This is where your psoas muscle is. Now it's very, very deep indeed, but it connects your upper body and your lower body together. And when we do a lot of sitting, this muscle can tighten up, okay, and it can cause back pain, but also tightness into the front of the body here. So during the class today, we've done the bum, the glutes, we've done the inner thigh, the adductors, and we've done the quads into the rectus femoris and the psoas. So across the hip flexor this way. But just remember, the pain, if it's more towards the inside, then it could be joint related, more to the outside, more soft tissue related. But if it's chronic and it goes on for a long time and yoga doesn't help, then make sure you go to the doctors. Okay, so we've been here for 4 minutes now. So let's start to bend the legs. And we'll start to remove the props that are underneath us. So lifting yourself up into a little glute bridge, and taking out the props that are at your side, underneath you. And then bring your back down to the mat. Okay, from here then you can bring your knees in towards your chest. So then now we're in back flexion, we're in back extension. And so this you might just feel it in your lower back a little bit. Okay, and so coming then into our last pose of Shavasana. So take your legs down the mat. If your lower back is a little bit sore from the last couple of poses, then bend your legs, let your knees knock together, palms face upwards, and relax into Shavasana. If you're quite okay, extend your legs down the mat. A little bit wider than your hips, so your feet fall naturally out to the sides, palms facing upwards. Okay, and we will stay here for about 5 minutes or so. So thoughts come into your mind here, just imagine them on a wave. Let them come and let them go. So nice and slowly start to bring the awareness back to your body on the mat. A little bit of movement through the fingers and the toes. And then take a nice big inhale, arms go all the way up over the top of your head. Bring the feet together, full body stretch. Bend your legs, place your feet by your sit bones. And roll to your left side, using your left arm as a pillow. When you're ready, bring yourself up to seated, keeping your eyes closed, and place your hands in front of your heart center. So we'll finish the class with one arm, so take a nice deep breath in. Slowly open your eyes. Namaste. So just before I come and unmute you, just to let you know that the hip flexors and the glutes are very well known for storing emotions, and the other classes that I've done for your hips and your bum, hip openers, they can often be the place where you store frustration and anger. So if you felt a little bit of anger or frustration through the class, don't worry. And then if you feel quite emotional now, then again, you know, it's about the work that we've done, but also the planets are aligning. We're coming into, I think it's a Mercury retrograde, where the planets are aligning and it's causing a lot of high emotions. So if you're quite emotional at the moment, then don't worry. You can blame it on the planets, and you can say it was the yin class. Okay, so I'm going to come and unmute you, and we'll see how we got on. Okay, so everyone okay? You can talk.
Yeah, that was great. That was hard, wasn't it?